Most people think a childhood without love creates broken adults, but that's not what psychology shows. What it actually creates are adults who function, who survive, who adapt, but carry invisible patterns that shape every decision they make. And the most dangerous part is this: most of them don't even know where those patterns came from. If a child grows up without consistent emotional love, not abuse, not extreme trauma, just absence, something subtle happens. Their brain doesn't collapse. It reorganizes itself. Love in childhood is not a luxury. It's not something extra. It's a regulatory system. When it's missing, the child doesn't think, "I am unloved." A child thinks, "Something is wrong with me." And that belief doesn't stay in childhood. It follows them quietly into adulthood. Psychology calls this emotional neglect, and it's one of the most misunderstood developmental experiences because nothing dramatic happened. No single moment, no clear memory, just a pattern of emotional absence. No one asked how you felt. No one mirrored your emotions. No one made space for your inner world. So your nervous system learned something early. It learned that connection is unreliable, that emotions are unsafe, that needs are inconvenient, and instead of collapsing, your brain adapted to survive. This is the part most people don't understand. Children don't break when love is missing. They adapt. And adaptation is not healing. Adaptation is survival. A child who grows up without love often becomes hyper-aware. They learn to read the room. They learn to stay quiet. They learn to self-regulate far too early. On the outside, they may look mature, but inside, they are self-parenting. Psychologists describe this as premature emotional independence. The child stops expecting comfort and starts becoming their own source of stability. That sounds strong, and in some ways, it is. But it comes at a cost, because when a child doesn't experience safe emotional bonding, their brain develops without a clear blueprint for security. Love teaches the nervous system how to relax, how to trust, how to rest. Without it, the brain stays alert, always scanning, always bracing, always prepared for withdrawal. This creates what researchers call a chronically activated nervous system. You might not feel anxious, you might not feel sad, you might just feel tense without knowing why, as if you're always slightly on guard, even in calm moments. This is not a personality trait, it's conditioning. And here's where it gets deeper. When love is inconsistent or absent, the brain doesn't learn how to receive care. It learns how to function without it. So later in life, when love shows up, real love, consistent love, something feels off. It feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable, sometimes even threatening, because your nervous system was trained in absence, not presence. This is why many adults who grew up without love struggle with intimacy, even when they deeply want it. They don't lack desire, they lack safety, and safety is learned early. This is also why many people who grew up unloved don't describe their childhood as bad. They say things like, "It wasn't that bad. My parents did their best. I was fine." That's not denial. That's adaptation. When a child can't change their environment, they change their expectations. They stop expecting warmth. They stop expecting attunement. They stop expecting to be emotionally held, and that becomes their normal. But normal doesn't mean healthy. It just means familiar. By adulthood, this adaptation becomes invisible. It looks like independence, self-sufficiency, emotional control. People may even admire it, but internally, something is missing. Not love itself, but the ability to rest inside love. This is the foundation for everything we're about to explore. Because what happens when a child grows up without love is not weakness. It's a nervous system trained for survival instead of connection. And that training shows up later in ways most people never connect back to childhood. In the next part, We'll look at how this early absence physically reshapes the brain and nervous system, and why so many adults live in a state of quiet emotional tension without understanding where it comes from. When a child grows up without love, the most important changes don't happen in memory, they happen in the nervous system. This is where many people get confused. They think childhood experiences are stored like stories, but the brain doesn't work that way. What develops first is not narrative memory, it's emotional regulation. Before a child can think clearly, speak clearly, or understand the world logically, their nervous system is already learning one thing. Is this world safe, or do I need to protect myself? Love in early life answers that question. When love is consistent, the child's nervous system learns how to settle. Heart rate stabilizes. Stress hormones regulate. The brain builds pathways associated with safety, trust, and calm attention. But when love is missing, the brain adapts in a very different direction. Instead of learning safety, it learns self-reliance under uncertainty. Neuroscience shows that children who experience emotional neglect often develop heightened activity in the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for threat detection. This doesn't mean they're constantly afraid. It means their brain is trained to anticipate emotional risk. They become experts at reading microsignals, tone changes, facial expressions, mood shifts, not because they're sensitive by nature, but because they had to be. When love is unreliable, the brain says, "I need to detect withdrawal before it happens." So it sharpens perception. At the same time, another system weakens. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for emotional integration and long-term regulation, develops under stress instead of support. This creates a pattern psychologists call functional hyper-independence. The child learns how to function, but not how to feel safe while functioning. This is why many adults who grew up without love are extremely capable in crises. They don't panic easily. They stay composed. They act because chaos feels familiar. What feels unfamiliar is softness. Rest feels strange. Receiving care feels awkward. Depending on someone feels dangerous. Their nervous system was never trained for that state. And here's something rarely discussed. Love doesn't just regulate emotion, it regulates identity formation. When a child is emotionally mirrored, meaning their feelings are acknowledged and reflected back, they develop a stable sense of self. They learn, this is what I feel, this is who I am, my inner world matters. Without that mirroring, identity becomes blurry. Instead of forming from inside, it forms from adaptation. Who do I need to be to stay unnoticed? Who do I need to be to avoid rejection? Who do I need to be to maintain stability? This creates what psychologists call a performance-based self. You don't exist as you are, you exist as what works. And this doesn't feel fake, it feels normal. Because it started before conscious thought. Over time, the brain wires itself around predictability, not authenticity. Safety becomes tied to control. If I control my emotions, I stay safe. If I don't need anything, I can't be disappointed. If I don't expect love, I can't lose it. This is not pessimism, it's conditioning. And here's the paradox. Many people who grew up without love appear emotionally strong. They handle pressure, they stay calm. They don't fall apart easily, but internally, their nervous system rarely fully relaxes. They live in what trauma researchers call baseline tension. Not panic, not sadness, just a constant low-level alertness, always on, always managing. This is why silence can feel uncomfortable, why stillness feels restless, why rest often turns into distraction. The brain doesn't associate stillness with safety, it associates it with vulnerability, so it stays busy. Another critical change happens here. When love is absent, the brain learns to suppress emotional expression. Not because emotions disappear, but because expressing them once didn't lead to comfort. So the system says, Feeling doesn't help. Functioning does. Over time, this creates emotional disconnection, not numbness, but distance. You feel emotions intellectually. You analyze them. You understand them, but you don't always inhabit them. This is why many adults say, "I understand my feelings, but I don't feel connected to them." That's not emotional immaturity, it's protective wiring. The brain built distance because closeness once led nowhere. And perhaps the most important consequence. Without love, the nervous system never learns what secure attachment feels like. Secure attachment isn't about dependency. It's about trust. Trust that closeness won't disappear. Trust that needs won't overwhelm others. Trust that connection doesn't require performance. Without that early template, the adult brain keeps searching, not consciously, physiologically. This is why patterns repeat in relationships, why certain dynamics feel familiar even when they hurt, why emotionally unavailable people often feel strangely comfortable. The nervous system recognizes what it knows, not what's healthy. In the next part, we're going to connect this wiring directly to specific adult patterns, the behaviors people often criticize themselves for, without realizing they're rooted in early adaptation. And this is where many people experience a moment of recognition, because what you've been calling a flaw may actually be a survival pattern that never had the chance to update. By adulthood, the brain no longer remembers the absence of love as an event. It remembers it as a way of operating. This is why people who grew up without love often say something strange. "I don't think my childhood was that bad. I had food, clothes, education. Others had it worse." And they're right. But the damage of emotional absence doesn't come from extremes. It comes from what never happened. No emotional attunement, no safe place to land, no consistent sense of being emotionally held. And so the adult brain expresses this history through patterns, not memories. The first pattern is hyper-independence. This is not confidence, it's self-containment. You learned early that relying on others brought disappointment, inconsistency, or emotional cost. So your system adapted. "I'll handle it myself. I don't need help. I'm fine." Even when you're not, hyper-independence often looks admirable from the outside. You're capable, reliable, strong. But internally, there's a quiet refusal to lean. Not because you don't want connection, but because your nervous system associates dependence with risk. Letting someone in feels like handing them a weapon. The second pattern is emotional over-analysis. You don't just feel emotions, you dissect them. You try to understand where they came from, why they exist, how to manage them. This isn't emotional intelligence, it's emotional self-surveillance. As a child, you had to monitor emotional environments to stay safe. Now, your adult brain does the same. You read between lines, you sense shifts in tone, you feel when something is off before it's spoken. This makes you perceptive, but it also makes you tired, because your system rarely turns off. The third pattern is difficulty receiving care. Someone offers help. Your instinct is to minimize. "It's okay, I'll manage." You don't have to, even when you desperately want support. This happens because care once felt unreliable or conditional, so the brain learned to distrust it. Receiving care creates tension, not comfort. You may even feel guilt when someone is kind to you, as if you're taking something you didn't earn. This is not low self-esteem, it's misaligned wiring. The fourth pattern is over-functioning in relationships. You become the stable one, the understanding one, the one who adapts. You carry emotional weight easily, sometimes too easily, because your nervous system learned that relationships survive when you regulate yourself, not when you express needs. So you become low maintenance, flexible, accommodating, until exhaustion quietly sets in. You give stability but rarely feel held. The fifth pattern is fear of emotional need, not fear of intimacy, fear of needing intimacy. Needing something feels dangerous. It reminds your system of a time when needs were ignored, minimized, or burdensome, so you downplay them. You tell yourself you don't need much, that you're simple, that you're fine alone. But the truth is deeper. You learned that needing was unsafe. And the last pattern, perhaps the most painful one, delayed self-compassion. People who grew up without love are often incredibly compassionate toward others, but harsh toward themselves. They forgive others easily, but struggle to forgive their own humanity, because early on there was no one modeling gentleness toward them. So their inner voice became functional, not kind. Be stronger. Don't overreact. Handle it. This voice kept you alive, but it also kept you distant from yourself. And here's the part many people never hear. These patterns are not character flaws. They are solutions that outlived their context. Your nervous system did exactly what it was supposed to do. It adapted. But adaptation is not the same as destiny. What once protected you can later restrict you. And the first step toward change is not fixing yourself. It's understanding why your system learned this language. In the next part, we'll explore what healing actually looks like for someone who grew up without love, and why it's not about becoming softer, weaker, or dependent, but about updating a system that learned safety in a world where safety wasn't available. Healing does not begin with feeling better. That's the first illusion. For someone who grew up without love, healing often begins with feeling worse, because for the first time, the nervous system is no longer suppressing what it learned to survive. Most people imagine healing as softness, peace, relief. But for emotionally neglected children turned adults, healing feels like destabilization, because the system that once kept you functional is being questioned. And here is the most important truth. You do not heal by becoming more emotional. You heal by becoming more regulated. The goal is not to feel everything. The goal is to feel without losing safety. This is why many people who grew up without love struggle when they first attempt healing work. They try to open emotionally before their nervous system has learned how to stay grounded, and that creates overwhelm. Healing, for you, is not about revisiting the past endlessly. It's about updating the present response. The first step is learning internal safety. As a child, safety came from the outside, or it didn't come at all, so your nervous system learned to stay alert. Healing begins when your body learns something new, that safety can exist inside you, not just around you. This happens slowly, through predictable routines, through consistency, through self-trust. Not affirmations, not forcing positivity. Consistency. The second step is redefining connection. You don't heal by forcing closeness. You heal by experiencing reliable presence. This can happen with one person, a therapist, a friend, a partner, but only if the relationship is stable, not intense. Intensity feels like connection, but it often recreates old wounds. Stability rewires the nervous system. It teaches your brain something revolutionary. Connection doesn't have to hurt to be real. The third step is allowing needs without collapse. This is the hardest part, because your system learned that needs equal danger. So healing means practicing need expression in small, controlled ways. Not trauma dumping, not emotional flooding. Simple needs. I need rest. I need reassurance. I need space. Each time you express a need and the world doesn't fall apart, your nervous system updates. And here's something critical. You do not need to become dependent to heal. You need to become interdependent. There is a difference. Dependence says, I cannot function without you. Interdependence says, I can function alone, but I choose connection. People who grew up without love already know how to be alone. Healing teaches them how to be without losing themselves. The fourth step is retraining self-talk. Your inner voice was not designed to comfort. It was designed to keep you moving, so replacing it doesn't work. You don't silence that voice. You add another one, a regulating voice, one that says, "You're allowed to rest. This reaction makes sense. You're safe right now." This voice doesn't argue. It grounds. Over time, regulation replaces criticism. And finally, the fifth step, letting go of the identity built around survival. This is where many people unconsciously resist healing, because survival became your strength. It gave you intelligence, independence, depth. Healing does not erase these qualities. It removes the pain tax attached to them. You don't lose your edge. You lose the exhaustion. You don't lose self-reliance. You lose the loneliness inside it. And here's the paradox. Healing doesn't make you need people more. It makes you need them less desperately and choose them more freely. By now, you may recognize yourself in ways you never had language for before. And that recognition matters, because awareness is not the end, it's the opening. In the final part, we'll tie everything together, explain why people who grew up without love are often the most perceptive adults in the room, and why your past did not break you, but shaped a mind that now deserves rest, clarity, and conscious choice. If you grew up without love, something important needs to be said clearly. You are not behind in life. You are not defective. You are not emotionally broken. You were trained under conditions that required adaptation. And adaptation creates patterns. Those patterns were never meant to punish you. They were meant to protect you. But what protects you in childhood can limit you in adulthood. And that's the shift this entire video has been about. Not blaming parents, not reliving pain endlessly, not turning your story into an identity, but understanding why you are the way you are, so you can decide what you keep and what you release. People who grew up without love often develop something rare. They read rooms before words are spoken. They sense shifts others miss. They carry depth without trying, but they also carry weight they never consented to. Constant self-monitoring. Emotional self-sufficiency taken too far. The quiet belief that closeness always has a cost. And the truth is, many of the most insightful adults you'll ever meet were shaped this way. Not because pain creates wisdom, but because awareness was necessary for survival. Now comes the part that matters most. You don't heal by erasing your past. You heal by no longer letting knowing replace living. Awareness without movement becomes another form of isolation. Understanding your patterns is powerful, but practicing new ones is what changes your life. That doesn't mean forcing yourself to trust everyone. It doesn't mean becoming emotionally exposed overnight. It doesn't mean opening your heart in abstract ways. It means something quieter, choosing relationships that feel stable, not intense, allowing rest without guilt, letting someone show up without testing them first, noticing when you default to distance and pausing instead of disappearing. These moments are small, but they are corrective, and correction is how the nervous system learns. Here is the hardest truth for people who grew up without love. You don't need to prove your worth anymore, not through achievement, not through endurance, not through emotional independence. You already survived. That chapter is complete. What remains now is learning how to live without armor. And armor, no matter how strong, always has weight. If you've stayed until this point, it means something resonated. Not emotionally dramatic, not sensational, but accurate. If this video helped you put words to something you've felt for a long time, consider subscribing to the channel. This space is dedicated to long-form reflection on psychology, behavior, and inner patterns. Most content never slows down enough to explore. And if you feel comfortable, leave a comment sharing one thing from this video that made you pause or reflect. Not for agreement, not for validation, but because insight deepens when it's articulated. Thank you for staying present until the end.